Ho, ho, ho. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Fallout Shelter Survival. Merry Christmas, one and all. Look at the vault. It's snowing outside, and there is decorations up in this bizatch. Look at that. Yay. Yay. Yay, there's nothing on TV but snow. Usually isn't like Rudolph on. Like Rudolph usually on the TV. What the hell? I'm kind of disappointed in this. Nothing's on the TV. Maybe it just comes on later in the evening. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows what's going on there? Anyways, how y'all doing? We're going to get attacked here eventually. But you know what? We're going to leave the attacks happen because, so, you know how when last we spoke, I had that the objective to survive so many mole rat attacks and get a Mr. Handy for my troubles? Well, we got another one, which I still have to do, and we're going to do that this time because something else happened as well. Something else happened as well. And what happened, do you ask? Well, we got another, let's get you out of there for now. We got another one. Oh my goodness. It's funny stuff. So guess what? The objective now is to collect 40 stimpacks, and you'll get another Mr. Handy. I'm going to have more Mr. Handys than I have floors very early on here. So we're going to force the issue on the mole rat attacks. And we are going to... who can we send down there? Who needs... yeah. No, who's got high... we need to find somebody that, has got some luck. You, my friend, you. You're gonna go. So, yeah. Mr. Handy for collecting stimpacks. And Mr. Handy for beating 12 mole rat attacks. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of it at this moment. I don't know why. I've had I'm halfway through a cup of coffee. Maybe that's where but I've been up for for a little while now. I was working on other things. So okay, let's do it. Let's get it in there. Oh, and it's gonna... oh, God, I forgot about this. There we go. Okay. And we're gonna skip ahead till we're done with this. The funny thing is I put people in there with very high strength, and it's gonna take a while for them to get the actual... well, that didn't even go anywhere. Get the actual mole rats to attack. Now, one thing I should mention is I have four lunchboxes over there to open, and I'm not going to open them. Again, we talked about that because of the... possibility of getting any dwellers out of that... well, I missed him. Getting any dwellers out of the... let's do this. Let's... for our sanity. Turn that down a little bit because that's just making me crazy. I know it's probably not that loud to you out there, but in my ears, it is just ridiculous. Now... there is going to be a real balance here to be struck in that I've got two people here fighting for their lives every time this fails, and I have to collect 40 stimpacks. As it is right now, I've got 23. I'm nowhere near. I'm going to start wasting stimpacks if I don't collect them. However, the collection of stimpacks takes longer than the rushing and the failing that I've got going on here, so I could quickly find myself into an issue. And I could quickly find myself in an issue here if I can't get any damn mole rats to spawn. That would be nice if that were to happen. So yeah. Oh my goodness, there's just the red roaches. The only thing we get going on here. So how y'all doing? It's been a week. Let me tell you. This is Tuesday. This will come out, of course, on Wednesday. Tuesday. It's Tuesday before Christmas. I had just finished up the last weekend of doing It's a Wonderful Life. I was Clarence, Oddbody, AS2, Angel Second Class, helping George Bailey find out It's a Wonderful Life, so he doesn't want to try to kill himself. Now, it has been a long time since we've had a long discussion about anything other than playing the game. While playing the game. Yeah, any discussions about besides the game while playing the game. Usually, remember in the old days, we used to do the missions and the quests. We would talk about anything, and I've talked about Christmas stuff at Christmas time, Halloween stuff at Halloween time, Thanksgiving, New Year's, anything like that. It is not usually something I don't, let me back that up again. It has never been something that I have not done when playing Fallout Shelter in the old vault, because we had quests, and quests would take us out into the wasteland, and they were pretty self-explanatory. No instruction needed, no tips or guides on anything like that. It was just point and click, go to the next room, and boom. So I would have these little discussions, and we've talked about this before. I'm reiterating all this because I'm gearing myself up to be able to talk about these things. But, we don't have quests in survival yet. They're coming, but we don't have them yet. And I've been thinking, what am I going to talk about when we do that? Because I don't even know if I am going to talk about anything. Do little discussions, little what I call vlogs while we were playing Fallout Shelter. If I do quests, because who cares? We've already seen all the quests before. If you want to go watch me do all the quests, go watch the other series. This is more about survival mode and what the inherent dangers are. So if there's anything interesting about survival mode, in regards to doing the quests, then yes, I will, have that discussion. But if not, I'm not going to worry about it. God, give me something other than a mole rat. I think I need to put worse people in this room. But anyways, what I was trying to get at, and I was trying to sort of like walk my way into, was that I did It's a Wonderful Life. And I'm going to do a couple of blog posts here in the near future about Christmas movies and stuff like that. But I know my head's everywhere but where it needs to be. It's right up my ass where it should be, basically. But because I can't get anything out because I'm doing two things at once here. In any case, I did It's a Wonderful Life. It was a stage adaptation of the movie, and it was created for a high school. So it kind of watered down a lot of the themes into something that a high school could perform. And because of, the sets that are involved, if you know the movie, there's a lot of sets involved. There's the Bailey household, Ma and Pa Bailey, the bank, the building and loan, the high school, the exterior around the house where, they throw rocks at the windows, the Buffalo gasoline. There's the actual Bailey home, George Bailey home, and there's all kinds of there's Potter's office and all that stuff. So it's kind of hard for a high school or any production that's going to do It's a Wonderful Life to pull off that sort of effort with a stage. So what they do in theater is they tend to create universal sets, meaning that one set that they can reuse for every single scene, and they just have to dress it in a different way through various props and whatnot. So our set was basically 3 points of interest. On upstage, what we call upstage, because back in the time theaters were raked. They kind of went in a slant. They kind of slanted from top to bottom. That's how theaters used to be, like the stages. A raked stage. So upstage is in the back of the stage. Downstage is towards the audience. Oh, we finally got one. So upstage in the way back of the performance area, we had a bridge, a raised platform of which George Bailey stood there and said, "Oh, please help me. I'm going to just kill myself to get this insurance money because of my life, everything else." And, that's where I did a lot of my scenes at because Clarence. Then on either side of the bridge, there were steps leading down to the front, to the bottom of to downstage that represented either the homes or other buildings. One side was usually like the bank, and the other side was the Bailey home or the Bailey's parents' home or thing like that. And then at the apron, the end of the apron, which they call the apron, at the front of the stage, they had scenes that were just there with a couple of props and set pieces to sort of denote what they were doing. But, you had to kind of keep it universal and as least amount of scene changes as possible because you don't want to lose an audience in the dark when you're doing a scene change. So that's how we had it set up. The show itself ran about an hour and a half with an intermission. The movie is usually about 3 hours long, depending on commercials. And if you don't know much about the movie, let me give you I'm going to try to give this as very, Cliff's Notes, Reader's Digest version of it. The story tells the tale of George Bailey, played by Jimmy Stewart in the movie, who is in a bad spot. It starts with his family praying, please help my brother George, please help my father, please help my husband, please, everybody's praying to get George Bailey help. He needs help. He's in a bad spot. He's, usually this guy is the greatest person in the world to be around, and right now he's not himself. And nobody knows why. So then in the movie, and they don't show this in the show, in the movie they have a little discussion in the heavens, and this is 1944, this movie came out, so it's not exactly like you're going to see a lot of, those types of set changes, like, oh, we're going to go see the heavens now. They basically had all of the prayers light up on, like lights in the audience, like their Christmas lights around the poles and stuff like that, in the beams and supports in the audience would light up in time, like was synced to the voices of giving the prayers. So that was sort of like to denote that. In the movie, you see a couple of stars in the heavens on a backdrop. Now, again, this is 1944, so it wasn't CGI. This was and it was black and white, so it was kind of like paintings with lights on them kind of idea. But you see Joseph and Peter, I think it's Peter, talking about, oh, George Bailey, tonight's the night. He makes his business decision. We better get somebody down there. And they go, well, who can we send? Let's send Clarence. Clarence is this angel second class. He's a bit of a child, bumbling sort of, not, I wouldn't say there's something wrong with him, but he's very childlike. He's not very adult-like. He's not very mature. They couldn't have cast a better person than that. Me. But they send him down. But before doing so, they give it's a 2-hour backstory on who George Bailey is. We condense it into a couple of flashbacks that's directed by me, the angel, saying, oh, remember this time and remember that time, and they show it on the stage, and then we talk about it, and then we go on. In the movie, they start with George Bailey as a kid, where it's him and his friends and his brother sled riding, in the early 1900s, probably like 1914, 15, something like that. And they're sled riding on these shovels down over a hill, and it goes out onto a pond. Well, Harry Bailey, being the youngest, George's younger brother, slides down this shovel and goes out onto the ice and falls through and starts to drown in the freezing water. And George jumps in and saves him at the expense of being sick for like a month or whatever and loses hearing in his one ear. And that becomes sort of why did they do that in a movie? It becomes a plot point later on. It becomes it's not a MacGuffin, what they would call a MacGuffin. To explain what a MacGuffin is and go completely off topic, a MacGuffin is something that drives the plot. The Lost Ark is a MacGuffin. The briefcase full of diamonds in Reservoir Dogs is a MacGuffin. The Death Star plans are a MacGuffin. That's what they call them. But in this particular, it's just something that they refer to for part of the plot. It's part of the, how do we know what point in time we are in, or something that happens. His hearing conveys a certain theme, as it were. So he saves Harry Bailey at the cost of his hearing, and later on we see him now as like, a couple, maybe a year later, year two later, still in a, not even a teenager, working for a druggist named Mr. Gower at a drugstore, and he just runs deliveries out to people. And this was, this is right about 1917, 1918, this during World War I for sure. And we see that Mr. Gower is a bit of a drunk. He's, he's very mean and just drunken, and he sends George out to do something. And it just seems very, uh-oh. Oh, he's right there. Let's get him. He's not himself. And we find out that because he got a letter from the military saying that his son had been killed in action in Europe during World War One. And he started to drink some more. And he might have been drinking before that because of the fear of his son being in danger. But, now it's like he's really messed up. And he's not paying attention to what he's doing. And he almost kills a kid by putting poison into these capsules instead of medicine, and sends George to go deliver it. Well, George sees something's wrong and doesn't do this, and he comes back, and the druggist is like, they've been calling for that medicine. Where is it at? Why haven't you delivered it yet? And he says, I couldn't do it. And he starts to smack him in the face for his disobedience to making his ear bleed, the one that hurt, that has no hearing in it. And he explains to him, like, look, I know you're sad. You got that letter, but you put something wrong in those capsules. I know you didn't mean to do it. I know you're sad. I know you're not thinking straight. And he basically saves him from a life of ruin by being disobedient. And in the background, like, you see him, like, I don't know what to do. So he goes and asks his father for help. His father's busy dealing with the town tycoon, Mr. Potter, because Potter and Bailey's were always it's like the Hatfields and McCoys in Bedford Falls, New York. And he can't get any, help from his father because his father's busy dealing with Potter, so he just takes it upon himself. And he goes back and, gets beat up for his efforts. But, you find out that George Bailey has now saved his brother's life from drowning. He's also saved, essentially, the life of this druggist, Mr. Gower, by helping him see that, he needs to clean up his act. So then we skip ahead to George Bailey as a high school graduate going off to college, and he's getting a gift of this, the suitcase from Mr. Gower for, being such a loyal friend and employee all those years. And, this is him going off to college. He's going to go do this. He's going to get out of this town. He's going to go build things. He wants to get away from this small town life and see a world and build skyscrapers and airfields and all kinds of stuff. That's what he wants to do. And he, goes home, and his brother, there's a party at a party at the high school, and everybody's going to go, everybody's going to go, and everybody's dressed up and going. And George decides to just show up for whatever reason, and sees Mary Hatch, a girl that he has known all his life. In the scene where George was doing the druggist, the druggist shuffle where he gets smacked upside the head, there was a moment where he's helping, he's giving like sodas and candy to the kids, and it's Mary Hatch. And she leans down in the ear. He can't hear it. Says, well, I'm going to marry you one day, George Baylor. I'm going to love you to the day I die, is what she actually says, I think. And he can't hear it because it's in his bad ear. There we go. There, we did it. We did it. We got the Mr. Handy. Yay. Mr. Handy. So, yeah, you see that happen where George Bailey, now has someone who's going to love him forever. And he is never going to know about it because he couldn't hear. So, this girl has grown up, and now they're at this dance together, and they start doing the Charleston, and there's like a contest. Back then they did contests and dancing contests. And it happened to be that George Bailey had taken Mary Hatch from some guy at the dance who was, striking out horribly. And, like, why don't you go, do whatever. And he's like, hey, the insults from back in the day, weren't that great. So the guy gets revenge by opening this lock on the gym that is built over top of the pool. They put a gym floor over top of the pool and it retracts. And he does that at the behest of somebody else saying, you know who's dancing right over top of the break of that gym room floor? You could push the button and knock him in the water. Get back at him for stealing your girl. That kind of thing. So that happens. Raider attack. That happens. And George and everybody else fall in the water. And George has no clothes, and neither does Mary because she is soaking wet too. So they're out wandering around in like a robe and a old football uniform, and they start to flirt, and they throw rocks at this old house that's like supposed to grant you a wish if you break the window. Mary wants to live in that house one day, that kind of stuff. Those kind of flirting things. And then, unfortunately, George's Uncle Billy comes in to tell him that and other people come in to tell him that their father's had a stroke and they need to get back. And we learn George Bailey's father, I think his name's Henry, dies. Or Peter Bailey, I believe. I don't know. I think they named one of the kids after him. Anyways, in any case, we see that George Bailey has to deal directly with Potter at this board meeting after the father's death. And he's, this is where you get the sense that, George and Potter are going to go rounds for years. So George says, we need this one horse institution in this town to keep people from crawling to you to live in your slums and pay your overpriced rent, for your miserable, warped, frustrated old man that you are. And the board's like, what? Potter wants to tear this thing down and turn their assets and liabilities or receivership. The board is willing to, vote that down if you take over your father's place. Well, George was going to go off and see the world. He was going to call it college and do all that stuff. And that didn't happen because now he feels obligated to follow in his father's footsteps and, be a member of the society. So he sticks around and sends his brother off to college instead. So we didn't see George get older, and Harry goes off to college, and then when Harry comes back, he's supposed to take over for George, and George is supposed to go off and do his thing. But that doesn't happen because while Harry's gone at college, George is out one night and he runs into Mary Hatch, and they end up falling in love. And then you see them get married. And then after they get married, there is the Great Depression. And there's a run on the bank, and everybody's trying to get their money out because the banks are closed. Meanwhile, Potter has taken over the banks and ensured that they're going to stay open. But, he owns them now. And the building and loan is going to suffer the same fate, but they take the money that they got from the wedding, and they manage to give people enough money to survive this crisis and remain open, and that's happened. So now he's married, he's got this job that he doesn't like, and what else is going to happen? Well, what he starts to do is he starts to really make a difference in people's lives. He starts to build people homes, not exactly expensive homes and not at any kind of profit, but to give them a place to live that is their own and not living in some slum that they're paying rent to a slumlord to, Potter. So I'm going rambling on about this, but I love this movie. And Potter starts to realize that he's really cutting into his business. And the bank examiner says, look, these are the prettiest little homes you'll ever have see. I'm thinking about buying one myself. He's like, you better not. He realizes that there's a problem here and he needs to do something. So instead of trying to, if you can't beat them, you join them. So he calls Bailey over to give him an offer of, you give up the building and loan and I'll give you a job managing my assets and my businesses at $20,000 a year. And George is like, what? What are you talking about, $20,000 a year? Now, in 1940, $20,000 a year was probably akin to almost six figures in today's age, with, inflation. And then, after the Great Depression and during, the World War, this was what? That was right after the Great Depression, so it would have been like 36, something like before World War II. George is about tempted to do it because like, he could give him a chance to get out and have a nice car, a nice house, and go see the world, go some business trips. He even throws in the offer of going to Europe once in a while. He's like, wait a second, what would Potter have business in Europe for? But anyways, he realizes that when he goes to shake on it, and he says, well, give me 24 hours to think about it. He's like, okay, well, I'll drop the paperwork, and you go talk to your wife. And he decides, I'm going to let this happen down here because I need to use up some of these. I have stimpacks that need to be used up so I can collect more. So I'm going to let them fight it out down here, and I'll just use stimpacks to heal everybody. Anyways, Potter tries to put one over on George, and George is about ready to accept it. When he starts to shake his hand, he feels the sweat on Potter's hand. He like has this moment where he's like, what is this on my hand? It's sliminess. It's pottery. He realizes, wait a second, Potter's sweating because he's nervous. He's scared. He knows he can't beat Bailey. And he's like, you know what? You almost got me with that trick. I don't think so. And he goes off. He storms off and pisses off Potter and everything else. Then we find out that Mary's pregnant. And now 10 years have gone by. It flashes forward again, 10 years. And they have 4 kids. And it's now World War II. The building alone is still the building alone. And Harry Bailey has been decorated with the Congressional Medal of Honor because there was an accident where he saved everybody on this transport. He saved the lives of all the men on the transport, and he's going to give the Congressional Medal of Honor. And he's going to be decorated a hero, and he's coming home. And George is proud of it. And he didn't get to go to war. He has bad ear, wouldn't let him go to war. Potter served on the draft board and marked him 4F, meaning he couldn't serve because of his ear. So he's, again, he couldn't get to Europe. He couldn't go overseas and see the world. He was stuck at home. So there's another reason why, Potter hates George Bailey's because his brother is like, Congressional Medal of Honor. He went off and did something grand. It's something that's detracting from Potter's worth and namesake because it's now the Baileys. So it's like, that, like I said, there's always a constant struggle between the two of them. So that morning, the day before Christmas Eve, Billy Bailey, the uncle who works at the building and loan, was taking a deposit over to the bank to, for their books, and runs into Potter and is talking about he can't keep those Baileys down. Oh, he almost popped 3 buttons in a shirt celebrating. And he looks at the paper and hands the paper over, doesn't realize he's left the envelope of money in the paper, hands it to Potter and walks away, and then forgets to deposit it. Billy has a bit of a memory problem. Potter sees it, doesn't say anything, and just lets it happen. And he realizes that, look, this is kind of bad, but I'm going to get George Bailey. I'm going to get him. He's going to have no money. He's going to get in trouble with the bank examiner, and I'm going to be able to just take over and put Bailey in jail for misappropriation of funds and seize the building and loan. There'll be a scandal. Well, George and Billy talk at the bank later because the bank examiner's there to look at his books. And he's like, I don't have the money. And they're like, what the heck's going on? And meanwhile, he's giving money to this other girl that, has been throughout the story, a rival for Mary's affections towards, or a rival for George's affection towards, It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I need to collect. Just keep an eye on it. So we realized that this could be bad. I'm not paying attention. We didn't lose anybody, at least. Holy crap and ollies. Let me fix everybody up. That was kind of a bad thing to do. I don't know why I did it. I know why I did it, but it was kind of a bad thing to do. Make sure everybody's healed up. Anyways, almost there. Anyways, so Billy and George have it out. He's like, "Where's the money, you old fool?" And he kind of gets grumpy about it. Then he goes home and his house is drafty. His kids are nagging him. They're like, "Oh, the neighbor's got a new car." He's like, "What's wrong with our car?" You're starting to realize all the things that his life have added up to, he doesn't feel like much. He's got a drafty old house. He's got 4 kids constantly bugging him. He's stuck in this town. He can't get out. And, it's just not going to get any better. And he's just pissed off at the world. And something happens that's going to throw everything out of whack. He's like, his little measly existence that he thinks he has is in jeopardy now because of this mistake that his uncle made. So he's kind of freaking out. He leaves the he leaves the house in disgust, and I wonder why I didn't attack her. Just attacked you guys. Interesting. So he leaves the house and he goes off to Potter. I think he actually goes to the bar first. He goes to his friend's bar. Person he helped to build a house for, Mr. Martini, who he drinks, tries to drink a little bit, and he runs into the, while he was at the home, he had a conversation with his daughter Zuzu's teacher, who she came home from school and got sick because, for whatever reason, it was about a little flower, little Zuzu's petals that he sticks in his pocket, tries to make him fix the flower and puts them in his pocket. And he balls this lady out on the phone, and then her husband gets on the phone and he's, say, if you ever think you're man enough, why don't you come down here? I'll tell you what I think about your wife. So, needless to say, he's at the bar that George is at, and overhears his name is George Bailey and punches him in the mouth, making his lip bloody. Also he goes to Potter to say, I need help. There's been a mistake in the books, and I don't, I need money, and, well, what do you do? And like, you been playing the stock market with the money? You've been playing the horses? You giving money to women? What's going on there? And he's like, no, it's just, and he knows, Potter knows what happened to the money. And he sees that George is going to fall on the sword for his uncle. He's like, he can't understand. He's like, you stole $8,000? You misplaced $8,000? He's like, he can't understand. Like, you're going to fall on the sword for your dim-witted uncle? And he's like, I'm going to swear out a warrant for your arrest. He's like, I got you, man. I finally got you. It kind of makes my soul itch a little bit, but I got you this time. And so I'm going to swear out a warrant for your arrest. And George leaves, wrecks his car into a tree, and then goes up onto this bridge. And his only thing left is, and Potter tells him, what kind of securities would I have if I gave you the money? He's like, I have a life insurance policy worth $15,000. Well, how much equity is in it? How much have you paid into it? $500. Like, hey, you're worth more dead than alive. So he goes to this bridge, and he's about ready to kill himself, and that's when you see Clarence show up. Clarence in the movie jumps in the river, knowing that George would save him and not try to kill himself. And then they have this discussion about, I'm an angel, and it freaks everybody out. And now I told you, you see, if you're still paying attention to the story now, you see how long this movie is. That's just the first, that first 2/3 of the movie is just catching everybody up to speed. The last part of the movie is the actual, payoff. Clarence says you shouldn't, he's like, oh, I guess I'd be better if I was never born. George says that because he's like, I'm in trouble and, I'm worth more dead than alive. And Clarence says, you shouldn't talk like that. He's like, well, I guess I wish it was better if I was never born. And he's like, oh, wait a second. And he's like, I'm here to help you. I'm your guardian angel, and I think I know how to help you. So he makes it so that George was never born. And then George's lip is no longer bleeding. And George's ear is no longer deaf. He can hear out of that ear. And he goes into the town. He's like, what are you talking about? And he goes back to the bar, and it's no longer Martini's bar. Martini doesn't own the bar anymore because Martini couldn't afford to live because he's probably living in some Potter slum. And everybody's like mean and drunk and everything weird. And he goes into the town, and it's now no longer Bedford Falls. It's Pottersville. And his insurance policy is no longer in his pocket. The Zuzu's pedals are no longer in his pocket. George Bailey doesn't exist. And he's like, I don't understand what's going on here. And he runs into Violet, who's, was an upstanding citizen, even though she was a bit of a town flirt. But now she's like a hooker, basically. And he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And he goes to see his mother at her house. And he's like, she, instead of being, this wonderful person that she is, she's now running, she's like this old, grizzled up woman who's running a boarding house and is very weary of strangers. To give you an idea, if you remember Back to the Future Part 2, when you see the alternate 1985 and you see old man Strickland, the principal, come out with a flak jacket or a flak jacket on and a shotgun in his robes. That's kind of what this looks like. It's like Biff World. Basically what it is. Um, so I think they probably took the inspiration of that. But you find out that, like, look, I know your brother Billy. Where did you see him? And, George says, well, I just saw him today. And she said, that's a lie. He's been in the insane asylum for the past 5 years, ever since he lost his business. So Billy's, eventually ended up in a state-run institution because of his memory or whatever. He's like, what about your son, your son Harry? He's a war hero. Like, my only son died when he fell through the ice and drowned. So you're starting to see that everything that George had a hand in his life has been, really, really great. And Mr. Gower is a rumhead that spent 20 years in prison for poisoning a kid. And he's a panhandling drunk. And Mary is an old maid and just is fearful of everything. And it's freaking everybody out. So George finally realizes that, like, look, Clarence tells him, like, look, George, you really had a wonderful life. You may not think it, but look at all the lives you've touched. Your brother was a war hero. Every man on the transport died because Harry wasn't there to save them, because you weren't there to save Harry. This is the reality here, George. You weren't there to stop bad things from happening, so bad things happen. Mr. Gower became a drunk. Your wife became an old maid. The town is now called Pottersville, and everybody lives in the slums. It's just, that's the way it is. You really should have... What happened there? Okay, that didn't... What the hell? That... Alrighty. I got there too late. So yeah, he realizes that everything was better off when he was alive, and he's willing to go to jail for all of it. And he's, he needs to be alive. He needs to be around because of all the people that needed him. And so he realizes it. And at the end, everybody who finds out that George Bailey was in trouble comes to his rescue and donates money, and they make up the difference. The warrant gets torn up. The warrant for the arrest gets torn up. It's no longer a crisis because they've got the money from donations. The people are willing to put up a lot of money to save George because he saved them. His life touched so many other lives. They made their lives better, and they're willing to help him in a time of crisis. And that's the moral of the story. Is that you may think that you don't have a great life, but think about how many people you might have helped out along the way. And my goodness, we've been going on now for over a half an hour, me just talking about this movie. And the explanation for the movie took longer than the damn stage show. Like I said, we cut a bunch of that stuff out. We just had us, me telling, oh, remember when your brother, it was just a visual. Like I just look out in the audience and say, oh, remember that day you saved your brother from drowning when he fell through the ice. But we show Mr. Gower in the poison bit, him going to the dance. I talk about the dance. We don't see the dance. I talk about the dance. Everything else that happens on stage, and it's mostly me explaining to George, what happened, and this is what went down, and oh my goodness. And there we go! And we got 2 Mr. Handys out of all that. It really is a wonderful life. So, I think we're going to wrap it up here real soon. I'm not going to open up, I said, all these because, I don't want to get any more dwellers. But there's another Mr. Handy. That was the whole point of this episode, was to get these 2 Mr. Handys. I had to vamp till we got there. Oh, my evil plan. No, and like I said, I really butchered me, describing that. It would have been better for me to gather my thoughts and put this into like a written down and recorded voiceover, but I couldn't do that. So my goodness, what are we going to do with this Mr. Handy? We're going to put him right here for now, and we're going to put this, we're going to leave him here because we haven't used any rataways, huh? We still have 25 rataways. My goodness, we may have to start thinking about going on some quests. That's just all the way is. That's all there is to it. But not today. Not before Christmas. So there you go. As you can see, now I've got scrap 18 weapons or outfits, or sell 18 weapons or outfits. We have, what? This one gets me money. This one costs me money. So let's get rid of this craft the weapons for now and collect 9 stimpacks. And now there's a raider tech. Ah, my goodness. My goodness. Let's not screw this up this time. Let's make sure that our Mr. Handy is already there waiting. Make sure we're ready for this. So yeah, that's basically it for tonight. It was just sort of this was just sort of a discussionary episode. There wasn't anything really big going on. I did want to show you the fact that we had, 2 options for Mr. Handy's. Again, I must reiterate again and again, please don't spend any of your real life money on a free game just because you think you need to. This is not EA. This is not, Rockstar. You don't have to advance in the game by, paying real life money. You just sit around and wait. You just play the game. Just play the game. Enjoy playing the game. And eventually, you'll get a Mr. Handy. It's just that's simple. It doesn't take a lot. It's not a big deal. There you have seen, if you have watched since day one, I've got 19. I have not done anything other than play the game. I've got 19, and I haven't done anything really. 19 Nuka-Cola Quantums for doing absolutely nothing except the objectives. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Mr. Handies. 1. No, wait. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 Mr. Handies already. 5 Mr. Handies already. I've got 34 dwellers, 5 Mr. Handies, 209,000 caps in the bank. You don't have to spend your own money to play this game and get anywhere. I'm telling you. Don't waste it. You're going to need it. You're going to need it. You're going to need that money. Don't give the money to Mr. Potter. No. And if we're lucky, maybe we can get the Christmas, presents to dance for us and come into the end. But there you go. So here we are. This is the last episode before Christmas and the next to the last episode before the end of the year. I am sitting now with 288 subscribers. I need 12 more to reach 500, and I put this on another video that's going to come out on Friday, 2 days later than this video. If you subscribe to the channel and you are my 500th subscriber, and we can show that you're 500, I can see in the order in which they subscribed. I can count backwards from whatever it is and figure it out. Or if you can give me a screenshot of you joining and being the 500 subscriber, whatever you want to do. I will give the 500th subscriber a T-shirt of the Angry Cast. It's linked at the end of the video, and it says, it's a microphone with the lightning bolts and stuff. It looks like an old radio thing. And it says, "Good evening and welcome to the Angry Cast." That is your gift for being the 500th subscriber, but you have to subscribe to get the shirt, and you have to be the 500th one to get the shirt. Now, you can buy the shirt if you want. $20 will get you the shirt, plus shipping. Well, bugger all. Like I said, you can buy the shirt if you like. You don't have to win the shirt. $20 will get you the shirt. It is it's made by TeePublic. It's pretty decent quality. I have a few t-shirts from TeePublic. That will get you the shirt for $20. You can also become a patron using my Patreon link. Patreon is back. They're saying they're not going to do what they said they were going to do, whatever that was. I don't even know what happened. Because I don't really pay attention to Patreon that much because I don't have any patrons. I don't. No patrons. But if you want to become a patron, you can. And you can get some cool stuff for becoming a patron. You can get a sticker for, I think, a $5 donation, tip, you should say, a shout out in the video. You can get a shirt. You can get a dweller named after you. I can name a dweller after you if you like in this vault, except for the legendary ones. I can't rename the legendary ones. So I have 150 of those available. And you don't have to be a full-time subscriber. You don't have to subscribe and have a monthly subscription fee. You can. There's a link in the description of the videos that tells you how to become a one-time subscriber. Just make that one-time donation, and the level of reward that you make your donation for, I will make sure that you get that. Whether it be a sticker, mug, shirt, shout out, dweller, whatever it is. Consider it. Not saying it's, you have to, but consider it. Because Adpocalypse is a real thing. It's like the Krampus. It only keeps coming up. I released a video to give you an idea. I released a video. We did the Red Dead Redemption double action revolver unlock in Grand Theft Auto Online happen over the weekend, and it was a fairly simple thing to do. You just go three or four locations, and then you get the revolver, and then you have to do like 50 headshots. You get $250,000. Not that hard. It's very simple to do. I did a quick video on how to do it. Released it that week because it was a weekend thing. There was a time-sensitive thing. I wanted to get it out there. And it immediately got flagged as limited or no ads because it's Grand Theft Auto. And they think, oh, automatically it's going to be bad. It's going to have violence in it, which it did, but still. It took 2 days until yesterday, Monday, for the video to be cleared by YouTube to be monetized. By then, I'd already had all the views I'm probably ever going to get on the video. And therefore, that video made no money. So I cannot rely on YouTube ad revenue to help me out anymore. I've said it before. So that's why I'm monetizing the channel other ways by adding a Patreon. You can buy my merchandise, that kind of stuff. But again, if you are the 500th subscriber and you have till the end of the year to become the 500th subscriber, you will get a shirt. I will figure it out. I will find out who you are. And there you go. So these presents are, there they go. There they go. Look at that. Look at them dancing. Boink. There you go. So that's all for tonight, everybody. I want to thank you. Have a Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching. And remember, it's a wonderful Mr. Handy. Have a good evening, everybody. Good night.
Ho, ho, ho.